Okay, so this is agenda here. This is the July 3rd, 2025 meeting of the Sustainability Committee. And we can start with a member roll call, if you would, Margaret.
Okay, I have Sarah Rombacher, Chair, Charlotte Dolenz, Co-Chair, myself, Margaret Gibbs, Don McIver, and Emily Squires. And absent is John Hagberg.
All right. And one vacant position. So if anyone wants to apply, they should talk to the town clerk's office. The minutes were sent out. Does anyone have any comments or a motion to approve?
They look good. I recommend we approve. I move for we approve.
Okay, any discussion for a second?
I'll second that. No comments from my side. Yeah, thank you, Margaret.
Okay. All right, so moved and seconded. In favor of approving the minutes, Margaret?
Yes.
Emily?
Yes.
Charlotte? Don?
Yes.
All right, thank you. I will double check. No other attendees, so we'll skip public input. The next item is approval of $750 for the renewal of the Energize Littleton site that we get from Mass Energize. This is the same thing that we've done in the past year. And it provides our website, which everyone should go to. And if you put in your email, then you can get updates and mark yourself as taking actions. We have a lot of different actions on the site, from small things to big things. And it also means that we can participate in the community meetings that Mass Energize holds every month, which is really, really useful. I don't know if anyone has any other comments or questions.
Seems like a good thing to renew.
I would agree. I feel like it's come up in almost every conversation we've had about anything we do, is sort of finding a line back to the website as a kind of central point for information. So yeah, I think it's been really helpful.
Yeah, I wonder if we'd get more traffic even if we advertise it on the Facebook pages.
Yeah, we should be doing that. I agree.
I move to approve $750 for the renewal of Energize Littleton site from Mass Energize.
I'll second.
All right. Moved by Margaret and seconded by Don. If there's no further discussion, then I'll do a roll call. Margaret?
Yes.
Emily?
Yes.
Charlotte? We didn't hear you, Charlotte, but...
Sorry, yes.
Okay. Don?
Yes.
And I'm also yes. Thank you. All right. The next item is climate plan outreach. So Michelle wasn't able to be here tonight. Michelle Zelenka, our regional energy manager. But I did have, I saw her at Jamie Eldridge's Green Advisory Council, and also Michelle held a meeting with the 4 towns that she's supporting, just to kind of information share between the four towns. So Diane Dickerson and I attended that. And I've had a couple of emails from Michelle, which I've forwarded on. Basically, she has, well, first she did reach out to MAPC to get some guidance on the greenhouse gas inventory, and the recommendation is to use the 2022 inventory. And so she's going along with that, on that path. She talked to the senior center about hosting our forum about the climate action plan, and that was well received. They can definitely do that. So she first said she confirmed that August 25th to 28th was available. In a later email, she said she would recommend maybe we look at dates on the week of August 11th, since that would be before school would be starting, and might get a little more participation, she thought. So I don't know if anyone wants to, if we want to take a look at the dates on the week of the 11th and see if we like those.
All that's clear for me, so sounds reasonable from my perspective.
I guess
okay.
I can take a quick look, but I was just wondering if there's anything else going on in town that we want to deconflict with, but I can maybe see if I can take a quick look at the calendar.
When does school start?
The 27th is like the Tuesday. I think it's either the 27th or 28th of August. We can look that up real quick.
It just seems so early.
Yeah, they start before Labor 29th.
It starts on a Friday?
Should be, oh, I'm getting that wrong. Sorry. Looking at
okay.
No, 26. Sorry, August 26th. It's Tuesday, August 26th.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, for me, I think anytime the week of the 11th would be a good idea. The select board meets on Monday night, it looks like. So we might not want to do Monday night, but.
For the sake of argument, we could keep it Thursdays, given that we tend to meet on Thursdays.
Yes, Thursday would be the 14th.
And that's not a third Thursday, and it's not one of our meetings. So I think we may have a meeting right the 7th, August 7th. That would kind of be the week prior, which might be good timing.
Yeah, I think that would be good. If we look on, actually, I'm just going to look on the Littleton site to make sure there are no other big committee meetings on that night. Yeah, at the moment, there's no public meetings on the 14th. Oh, yeah, of August. Yeah. Do we want to plan for that then? Okay, I will let her know.
And what date in particular?
August 14th, the Thursday.
Okay, gotcha.
If for some reason that doesn't work for the senior center, do we have a second choice? Does it matter?
I wondered if, I think I only have the July things for the senior center. I just got something in the mail today from them.
But maybe Tuesday as a second choice. I don't see anything on the town calendar for Tuesday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is the senior center currently set up to allow after-hour meetings?
It would have to be attended, but I think that that won't be a problem. I'll have to confirm, but I think that they were going to be able to work something out.
Okay, because I think I had asked that question before. I mean, during the tour to the and it sounded like they were going to allow that, but it wasn't. It was sort of unclear to me whether it was currently available, in the sense that. But in any case, we just need to verify.
Yeah, we need to verify it, but I think generally no, they're not set up for that. Just for anyone to have a meeting, but I think that they were going to, make it work for us.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they've had a few after hours events, but it's sort of on a case by case right now, and they haven't yet set up a more routinized system. But that's my understanding too, that it's doable.
And so Michelle recommended also that maybe another draw would be if we, before the forum, have just a little tour, because not everyone's gotten to go in the new building. And Diane pointed out that there's a nice big screen in the atrium showing the power consumption and the power coming off of all the solar panels. So that's a nice tie-in. Okay, so I guess just over the next month, we'll need to work with her about what the content of that is. And then verify, we can go over it at next month's meeting.
Sarah, do you envisage any sort of smaller working session one-on-one with Michelle for that? Is it worth doing any sort of between meeting work on that? As in, by the time we get around to next meeting, I would assume things would be pretty tight in terms of like materials and stuff like that. Do you think we need to, do some work in the meantime? Is that
yeah,
what that covered?
I think Michelle plans on doing most of it, but I definitely was planning on keeping in touch with her to make sure that we were on track and that we were, saying what we wanted to say. If it looks like we need to get together to chat again, then I will be in touch with everyone and see if we need to set up a meeting halfway through the month to go over that. Yeah. Just make some notes. Hang on a second. Okay. I'm just going to scan my notes real quick and see if there's anything else. Yeah, she said, I am beginning to prepare the slide deck for presentation and an agenda, as well as another outreach flyer. We'll update the residents on the greenhouse gas emissions in town. Our scope states that the event will also have a visioning session that will allow participants to share their ideas for what a sustainable Littleton will look like. And generally, this is accomplished through a postcard from the future prompt. So she's already got some ideas, it sounds like. And okay, yeah, I think that's good. I will get back to her in the next couple of, well, maybe Monday, to get back to her and confirm the senior center for the date, and we'll confirm a time. Sorry, looking for my agenda. There we go. Anything else on climate action plan outreach?
Yes.
Uh,
Sorry. Okay. So, I think we talked before about how we are going to inform people of this, and one of which was I think John had a good idea about using the electronic display board in front of the middle school. And I think because it's in the summer that we should be notifying people like at least a month ahead of time, so they can get on their calendar. So I suggest that you know, we need to do that. I would just, I'm not sure what the timing is for the newsletter for the town, the broadcaster for the seniors, whoever's managing Facebook, and of course the Mass Energize. So how do we? Okay, so we of course need a firm date before any of this can happen. But once we get the firm date, we need to do that almost immediately.
Yeah. So is the town newsletter articles are due mid-month ish. So, and then it would go out on the 1st of August. So that we're good on the timeline. I think the broadcaster timeline is similar.
Right, so,
No, you're shaking your head, Margaret. No.
No, at least it didn't used to be. It used to be that you'd have to get it to them like today, practically for next month.
Okay, I can reach out and see if.
They may have changed.
We don't have a date yet, so it is what it is. I'll add to your list LCTV.
And I'm not sure about that electronic display board in front of the middle school because they've now torn up that whole area for putting in. I'm trying to think, tennis courts. So I'm not sure if they can change the board right now. It's off. But that might be something that John can talk about. Sorry to interrupt, Emily. Just wanted to respond to that.
No, that's important to know. The highway department sign might be another option too. The one that tells us that we need people to plow the roads and to pay taxes.
We can check on that. I suspect that might be in use for road work, but we'll see.
They use it for taxes, and they use other, to remind people when their taxes are due.
I know, but there's a lot of road work going on right now, and they also use that for, lane closures and things like that.
Oh, they do. Okay, I did not realize that. Okay. So Sarah, you're going to take responsibility for the publication. Did you need someone to help you with that?
Yeah, why don't I will make a list, and once we have the date, make a sort of description and details blurb, and then yeah, I can probably no, I would like help actually, because I'm going to be on vacation for 2 weeks coming up. So since it is timely, then yeah, I should actually hand that off to someone else. But I can make a list and send it to you or whoever wants to do this. I know, Emily, you're still an admin on the Energize site, so you should be able to get to that.
I can do that one, but I'm not nearly as connected in as the rest of you guys to the rest of the. I mean, like Facebook, I don't even have an account type thing, so I would not be able to do everything. Does anyone else want to do it? To
maybe
volunteer?
Jump in, Sarah, if you're still okay with creating the blurb just so the messaging is consistent, I'd be more than happy to share it on the like the Littleton Parents site, and there's a few others going around, so I can put it on those ones at least. Yeah.
Okay. I'll get a blurb out before the end of next week, assuming we are able to confirm the date, which we should. So that I think at the moment, I think, Emily, you're the only other one that's an admin on Energize. So
I can take care of the admin. So
what
you might want to do on your list of how we're going to communicate is just put tentatively who you think might be able to take responsibility, shoot it out, and anyone who can't do what they've been tentatively assigned can communicate. Like I can't, Charlotte can do Facebook. I can't, take things.
Yep, I can do that. All right. Anything else? You still have your hand up.
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. All right. And Don, you have your hand up.
Sure. Yeah, just thinking of the outreach, things we should, maybe this is more of the content for the outreach. But, last meeting we talked about emergency declaration. We should have in mind what that should be, because it's coming up and people may ask, and maybe it's part of the outreach. So just a reminder for that. Also, we had a discussion about could we have a sort of simplified chart, timeline chart? What had been proposed before was sort of narrative done in a vertical page manner. And John did mention he had tools at his disposal as a planner. So I'm thinking of something simple. People want a sense of what's going to happen when, just sort of laid it out on some general timeline. It's also good for us to keep track of where we are. It's sort of a self-reminder. Things may change, but having some sort of simple timeline chart as to what happens when would be good. It'd be good for the outreach. So those are just two thoughts.
Charlotte.
Yeah. Again, maybe on the content. So I expect Michelle's probably well on top of this, but I anticipate questions at that outreach about how some of the recent funding decisions at the federal level may affect the work. How does it not affect, the work that we're doing? So just kind of maybe being prepared with some, talking points, Q&A around that, so that we also don't get, I'll say, too distracted by that, and make sure that the conversation does focus on the sort of the plans for Littleton. But yeah, that was more of probably a question really for Michelle, just to how she might want to approach that.
Okay. I did just remember that we do have Third Thursday coming up again. The first one was very lightly attended, but we had the Mass Energized games, and the people that were there very much enjoyed those. I guess I don't know if what we want to plan for this time and who can be there. I will not be in town to be able to go. It is the 17th.
Yeah, I'm afraid I will be winging my way to California. So I will not be there either. I wonder if, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. If we did the first one and the last one, I just thinking in terms of return on our energy and investment here. Do we want to put more energy into the August one and skip this one in July? Just an idea, depending on what everybody else's availability is as well.
I would think it'd be good to have at least 2 people present. According to my schedule now, I could be present, but it's a matter of what do we do? And would other people be available or not? If not, then I like Charlotte's idea. Maybe we skip one.
I'll have to check with John to see if he was available, because basically he brought the tent and table and everything. I have a board that would be able to be reused that we had just a couple questions on how you envision Littleton in 5 to 10 years. And I think there was another question, maybe what would you do to make Littleton more sustainable? And that's reusable. We just have Post-its for people to write on. Mm-hmm. So we do have the minimum, assuming John were available to bring his tent and set up. It would be good to have a second person, yes.
Yeah, and it sounds like good topics, a good activity to engage people.
Yeah, I think those questions sparked a couple of good conversations. In the 5 or 10 years from now, sort of made it. Someone came and said, "I just want everything to be the same, or how it used to be." So thinking ahead, like it sort of opened up a conversation to look at a positive way of, well, what does that actually look like, and how can we move to that? So we got some really, we had some good conversations, even though there weren't too many people there, but it was useful, and those were good questions. Michelle helped me to decide on which ones to use. Well, I can check with John. If he's not available, then yes, I think we should just focus on the preparation for the August meeting and do the August 3rd Thursday.
And how do you arrange the payment? Always strikes me odd they charge town committees to engage the public, but there's a charge, and can they invoice, or does that have to be solved before the activity?
That did not come up. So either they're not charging committees this. I think they may not charge.
Didn't charge us last year.
Yeah, I think as long as it's a town committee or department, they don't charge.
And they should have been doing that way back, but it's nice if they don't.
Okay. I will check with John on 3rd Thursday and confirm yes or no. For next time, do we want to think about, or not next time, for August, would we want to think about getting those games again? I think it's $100 to rent them, and again, if John's available to pick them up, or if someone else can pick them up.
I think it's a good idea. Another tool for engagement, and that'd be on August 21st.
I think it did pull people over and allowed people to talk while their kids were throwing bean bags. Okay. I'm sorry, I missed what you said, Charlotte.
I was going to say I'll speak to that. Yes, it did help while I was helped entertain the children while I was trying to have a conversation. I like that it's a draw, right? It's, if we're not going to have a whole bunch of plastic swag, then it's helpful to have something that kind of brings people over, and like you said, it's a conversation starter. So I thought it was really nice to have those. And whether we have those or something else, I like the idea of having some kind of engaging activity or something. So yeah.
Okay. All right, so I'll check and see if they're available, or have John do that, since he was in contact with, I think it's with Nathan from Mass Energize, and if they are available and we want to do that, then we can allocate the funds at the August meeting. Okay, anything else on outreach? Okay, if not, then the next thing is any member updates or new business. I know, Emily, you had something. Do you want to go first?
Sure. Okay, so I'm very interested in recycling, and as to I mean, Margaret and I've been talking about this a little bit offline, but one of the things that one of our neighboring towns has done that I thought was very useful was they had a recycle for styrofoam. Okay. They did this through their transfer station. They only opened it up for town residents to be able to drop things off. And what I would like to propose is that I can reach out to Harvard's and find out who they used, contact them, and I think it's something that we should do. I think to make it sustainable, we should make it into something that's an annual activity, potentially. The reason is that people will then more likely save up their styrofoam instead of composting or instead of landfilling it. If we know for sure that once a year we're going to have a styrofoam recycling, I think that will work. What are people's thoughts about that?
I like the idea. I was wondering if it's all types of styrofoam or only one type, the hard type, because sometimes people have a difficult time sorting their styrofoam even properly. You know what I mean, right? People don't sort very well. And I would
cycle.
Yeah, I would want to have somebody really watching what's coming in and telling people they have to take things back again if they're not the right type. Otherwise, you're good. Yeah.
I think, but I don't know that the company was on site. Okay, but I would verify how that's going. It's not like where we take responsibility for it.
Oh, okay.
They're at the compost, they're at the transfer station. They would, so I'm assuming that it needs to be clean, and that is only a certain type, which is there was a brochure that told you what type of styrofoam you could recycle, and it's something that we would put out a couple of months ahead of time because people need to start saving up their recycling, and like I said, continue yearly or twice a year. It's something reasonable. I don't know how much it costs to do that, if it costs anything, but because I'm on the sustainability committee, I did not want to just reach out to Harvard without first, making sure that I had the support of the sustainability committee before I represented that was sustainability committee for Littleton when I talked with them. So okay.
Charlotte?
Yeah, it makes me think, Emily, so generally yes. I think the idea is anything we can keep out of landfills, I would say let's go for it. I had a question for you because I have a trash service. Like I don't take my trash to the transfer station. Does the transfer station also handle regular recycling? Do people drop off recycling? Because for me, right, I have the 2 trash cans and it's separate. And I guess that's the first question. And the second one is, do we think that is optimized as much as it could be? I have never been, I haven't had a need to go yet, but I sort all my, have compost, recycling, and regular trash. But yeah, I'm just wondering if that's more broadly something that you think could be optimized to keep even more out of the landfill, or is the transfer station already doing the best they can? reading once. Sorry, I was going to say, people, to your point about sorting, people who are willing to take their recycling somewhere are usually the people that sort better. And so they actually had I think it was a pilot in Virginia near where I used to live, where they found that when they had bins set up in a sort of central place in the community that people could actually bring their recycling to, the percentage of usable recycling went up dramatically from those sites compared to what people sort of dump in their home bins. So I was just curious, like, if that's similar from what we're seeing at the transfer station.
So you can't recycle. The transfer station won't take foam, styrofoam. That's one of the things they won't take.
Or compost.
Or compost, yeah. And but they collect glass. It doesn't matter what color. You don't have to separate the glass color. They collect certain types of polymers, but not polymeric films. So you have to use the grocery store to cycle polyethylene films. One of the things that I would really like to do, and Margaret and I have been trying to figure out how to do this, is polyethylene terephthalate film. If it's in a hard form, like a soda bottle, it's recyclable. But the films are not. Things like you go and get grapes in a bag, it has holes in it and so on. That's generally a polyethylene terephthalate, a PET film, but you cannot recycle those at the grocery store. So we're still trying to find how to recycle that in a place that potentially can recycle that. So as we find places that will recycle hard to recycle materials, like Margaret has the TerraCycle system going on, and a couple of others as well. But styrofoam is something that's big, and you have the materials that they ship medicine in, the foam boxes and so on, the foam forms that they pack electronics in and stuff like that. Those type of things. It's big volume, and you want to, there's I think there's one place, at least one place in Massachusetts that recycles, but it's out in the western part, and I assume that's who they came into with Harvard, but that's why I went to verify. So yes, in terms of is there something that I think that I would like to see recycled more? It would be our transfer station would be the films of the polyethylene terephthalate films, which are probably being contaminating the grocery store ones, by the way, because a lot of people just.
Can I break in for a sec? I just wanted to let you know a couple things. One, the Rotary was, along with Chris Dolphin at Dolphin Insulation, they were collecting the plastic film. I don't know if they still are, or if they've gotten enough, but I can give you, we found out, and we actually took a bunch of bags over. So if you don't have his contact.
PET?
The film, plastic film.
So I think we're talking at odds here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think
there's more than one different type of polymeric film. So most of it, like the grocery bags, are polyethylene.
Okay.
PET is different. So yeah.
Okay. The other thing is that as far as the couple things. I think Westford has also done this, and a few other towns around. So you might want to contact Westford too. I think it's probably best done through the transfer station. And I'm guessing that there is a cost, because anytime I see it, it's residents only. So we should find out what the cost is. Maybe it's something that I don't know I have no idea what the cost would be. So whether it's something that our committee would want to fund or bootstrap, or just encourage the transfer station to run that event, or petition the select board. I don't know.
Stage number one is to find out who Harvard used, get the information, bring it back to the committee.
Yes.
I just wanted the committee to be on board before I go representing the committee to when I go and talk with Harvard to find out what they did. Several years ago, there was community-wide hard to recycle, and they did have foam recycling, but that stopped before the pandemic. And then the person who was leading it decided not to do it any longer and basically fell apart. Various towns had small ones, but they didn't have it big, and it did not include some of these more harder to recycle stuff. So that's what I'm trying to do, is get the ones that, ideally, what I would like to do is replicate or have the multi-town organization come, where we can have everyone from the surrounding communities come in and do the recycling. I would have to try to find the person who used to organize it and find out how they organized it and so on. I think starting with the styrofoam is something that's doable, since this is how Harvard's presenting it, and see if we can do that.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I have another comment, but I'll let Don. You've had your hand up for a while, and then
sure. And I've missed some of the conversation of these families because it comes across very quietly, and some of it you've already covered. But what I've seen that works well for styrofoam recovery is that it's done at a transfer station. That way, you be sure it's residents only. People have permission to come in there, and that way also someone is there watching it. Whatever company does the styrofoam acceptance, there's someone there to make sure it's the styrofoam that's being accepted. As far as costs, I think it'd be better if we talk someone else into paying for it. We're just the catalyst. I mean, because there'll be other things coming along, and maybe the transfer station could pick it up. If not, go to the Rotary, go to the town. But I think it's much better if we're the catalyst and make things happen, and not be seen as the people responsible for doing it. We're trying to get other people to do it. So anyway, that's my take. I think also Acton has done styrofoam recycling. And it's not like hazardous waste day. It's done like one day only. You advertise up ahead of time so people can save up their stuff, and then but anyway, I think you probably covered a lot of the other ground too. That's it. Okay.
The other thing that I wanted to add to your question, Charlotte, about the other items at the transfer station. So some number of years ago, I don't remember how many, when Brian Balukonis was on the committee, he did work he worked in that field, and he did at one point work with the transfer station to try to start to analyze some of what they were collecting, and thinking a little bit about optimizing that. I think that was, if I recall correctly, and someone can probably correct me. It seems like it was.
I still have that data.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a mess.
But I think that as a first step, finding out about the styrofoam and doing that project would be a great way of making a difference and making that connection to the DPW, and trying to have that influence.
Yeah, just quickly, we should also be thinking of shredding stuff. And last time it was done, I think it was towards the winter time. It was done in the parking lot behind the town hall, and maybe it's Council on Aging that did it. And then they claimed they would do it again, but maybe when it wasn't either so cold or icy or whatever. But we should encourage that to happen again.
Yeah, I was wondering, Margaret, and we can also chat about this another time, but I'm just wondering if that data is worth revisiting, or if it's worth getting an updated set. I think styrofoam is like certainly agreeing that I completely agree. Let's pursue that. But I wonder if digging into a little bit of that data might help identify where there could be some opportunities to sort of optimize the recycling, so we can go after the things that are most impactful. If there are some things that really could be far more effective, but for some reason are not, it might shed some light on things that we could help with potentially.
Yes, so I don't want to take this over from Emily's very big, generous heart doing this, the styrofoam, but we could talk. The data that I had was not very useful and is very old now. And I did try at one point to reach out to the transfer station and get somebody on board to help me get more data, and I was unsuccessful and I kind of gave up. But that was a few years ago now, so might be time to try again.
Yeah,
not right now. Not to not when Emily's talking to them, because I don't want them like having to deal with us too much.
Let's do it step by step. The first step is everyone seems to be on board. That I will reach out to Harvard, find out who they used. I'll probably look around and see if there's any other options, and then contact them to find out what the arrangement is, and if there's a cost. There's actually, frankly, there's likely not a cost, but in any case, is that okay with everyone?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll report back next meeting.
Great. All right. Any other member updates?
Not an update, but sort of old business. Yeah, we put a lot of energy into commenting on the natural hazards, environmental hazards, and so on. And I know that document came from Planning Board and with the help of the MAPC, and it seems like it's stalled somewhere. Maybe funding's run out. But we had some penetrating questions which maybe weren't appreciated, like why were we left out on some things? As they're suggested, we're involved with some stuff. But it would be nice to see that move along. It's been many, many months since we've submitted that.
Did it not?
Well, you were going to submit and then remind you, and you submitted something, I believe.
You're talking about the hazard mitigation plan?
Yeah.
I think that.
But my question is, why isn't there another draft or a final document coming out? And I think
I think there was.
My guess is because my guess is they were sitting on it, and we did have some penetrating questions which maybe were fully appreciated, but nonetheless there were legitimate, reasonable questions. Could we look into it?
Yeah, I thought that I heard that it was approved, but I could be misremembering. I also I think it was at the Green Advisory Council with Jamie Eldridge. One of the speakers, I remember having the cover of the hazard mitigation plan on a slide. They were talking about creating plans like this, and it was ours that they used the cover of.
Although, the person probably was Van Noyes, who was.
I think it was her. Yeah.
Yeah, she works at MAPC. She's the assistant doing climate action, and she's a constituent of Jamie's. And certainly they did the draft, which we saw. But that final document should be part of our documents or portfolio documents for a climate action plan. And yeah, I mean, the climate action plan is not only greenhouse gases, but also has additional documentation areas. And that I would think would be a rather important one. So how do we follow up on that to make sure there is a final document?
Dawn, I would check the select board minutes from the last meeting or two, because I feel like I heard that it was final recently.
Okay.
But I could ask about that.
Okay, so when I check on it and see if there's a file document and where is it posted.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Margaret, did you have anything?
No.
No. Charlotte, anything else?
Just a quick note on that Yes for Littleton thing. I'm
Right.
happy to reply back. And maybe some wires got crossed there, but I can also share that as a sustainability committee, we were invited to participate in the, I'm going to lose track of the acronym, but the sustainability arm of the school project. So that we are linked, but I can also ask her, you know, other things that maybe we could do to collaborate, but happy to reply.
Yeah, so is this the question about us being, quote, in partnership, that the email that got sent to us? And so my feeling is that, yeah, the way incorporating the sustainable, the responsible elements is something we can endorse, and we should endorse, and glad to support them. But that's how they do it. The big thing is, are they going to have a new school project, etc.? And the burden of proving they need that is really sort of outside of us. I mean, you know, some people may take a reaction to us saying, "Oh, we should get on board with this," and we're sort of overstepping what our mission is. Yeah, to endorse them incorporating sustainable elements is great. I think we should endorse that. And that's sort of within our scope of actions. But yeah, I don't think we either make or break them getting approval for the school. That's such a bigger action. And if they can't get that by themselves, there's something wrong. Yeah, like they need to redo it or whatever. But yeah, there's nothing wrong. It's great to partner, but I think we should confine it to that area. If you remember our 7th grader from Meadow Oaks, we really restricted what we endorse. This poor kid that was just trying to do something good, you know? So, but yeah, we should be more limited scope, but answer yes, we endorse the sustainable components, and that we think that's great. We're glad to see that. So I don't know how you fine-tune that wordsmith, but we should probably do that since we were formally asked, and we should probably give a response.
Emily.
Yeah, my concern with the committee on that, first off, the amount of involvement that the Sustainability Committee has been allowed to have on the Shaker Lane School has been limited. I go back to the minutes from last time when it was discussed that we would not even be involved until after the town meeting, and I think that's way too late. But to imply by endorsing anything that has to do with the school when the committee has basically been shut out of doing anything. I mean, I'm Charlotte, you might have something to say about this, because I'm doing based off what you talked about last meeting, is that you know, they're telling us that we can't get involved until it gets down to the details, not the big scope. So I don't think going into endorsing something where we are not actively involved in, had purposely been have not been invited into this. I don't think we should. And I also echo Dawn's perspective that it's not within our scope to chime in on political aspects, town involvement in other aspects. So if we even considered doing it, we'd have to be very narrowed in scope of saying, we support an environmentally sustainable school. The details we don't really, other than it's going to be LEED and the aspects that go into it. Charlotte, you probably have some things to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think both things can be true at the same time, perhaps. And maybe this is also just, my own kind of bandwidth on the topic. So, going in, the school had a lot of design aspects from the get-go that I think checked a lot of the boxes that we would have probably wanted to push for, but we didn't need to push for, because being a LEED school from the get-go, having some of its components already essentially established, that it was going, seemed like it was already directionally all electric, etc. So from where I stood, I think there was just fewer things to actually fight for, in a way, because some of the baseline, I should say, seemed pretty good to start with. And I will say that, part of that is also, I think if we'd had 6 full-time people working on it, maybe yes, that there could have been, you could have pushed even further. So I didn't get the impression we were shut out so much as the train had left the station, but in a good direction. So it was a little bit more, again, it wasn't something we had to push back on. So I wonder, would it be appropriate for us to say, though, that if a school does, any school, if it goes ahead, if it doesn't go ahead, that's again, like, not really our place to say, but we do endorse incorporation of sustainable building practices in Littleton. This is maybe a little bit after the fact, but given the design, there are elements that, yes, the sustainability committee is in favor of, in terms of, heat pumps and sort of the LEED certification, something again that limits our endorsement of or encouragement for sustainable building practices, but doesn't get into the weeds of sort of advocating either way. I would say that there is, I think, a pathway for us to do that, should we want to do that, because a no vote is actually pretty wasteful in terms of, bringing a building up to code. It's still very inefficient, that building. So even if you purely looked at it from a sustainability perspective, I think we could reasonably say that we would be in favor of a new building because it is the more sustainable and environmentally friendly option. But I don't think we have to go there if we don't feel comfortable saying that.
So could I add in, maybe what we could say, if a new building is built, so we don't take a position on repurposing an older building, which some people think we perhaps should do because it's reusing something. Say if a new school is built, it should incorporate, we endorse incorporating sustainable elements, much as was done for the senior center and the library. So the real focus is here examples of what is current and what makes sense. And we're not involved all with yes or no as to new school, old school. So it gets us closer, and we're trying to accommodate requests and accommodate the good part of it that we think is very valuable, and we think other people might think it's valuable too.
Yeah, so we're in support of the incorporation of sustainable building aspects, blah blah blah, in a new, in the instance that a new school is constructed, something like that.
Okay, we can talk about this in the future. We wouldn't be able to take any action on that tonight anyway.
Maybe someone could try to wordsmith something for
well,
the next meeting.
I think the first step maybe would be, Charlotte, if you want to reach out to, I forget her name, Anna.
You're on mute.
Sorry, Annalise.
Annalie. Yeah, I think the first step would be to reach out with her and just to her and just have a conversation and let her know, of what your involvement was and what the committee's scope is. And I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said, Charlotte.
Oh, sorry, I was just agreeing to say that I could at least just share the background in a very objective way.
Okay. And I think we have a few months. We could, you can have that conversation. We can have it on the agenda next month to talk about whether what we want to say. And then September would probably be plenty timely to actually vote on something if we did want to proceed with that. Does that sound reasonable? Okay. All right. I think we're out of agenda items, unless anyone else has any other new business. All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I will move so.
And a second?
I was second.
All right. All in favor of adjourning? Charlotte? I didn't hear you, but I saw you.
Sorry, I don't know what's happening with my microphone tonight. Yes.
Dawn?
Yes.
Margaret?
Yes.
Emily?
Yes.
And I also vote to adjourn. Thank you very much. And I will see you next month.